Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of the Autism and Neurodiversity Workplace Masterclass for the corporate industry. My name is Ben Holmes from Autism and Neurodiversity Coaching. You may have joined us for day 1 yesterday. I hope you found some useful information, some useful points and tips for you there. A lot more to go through today. If you're just joining today, you missed day 1, that's in the Facebook group, so don't worry, you can always watch that later. We will be putting it on YouTube as well, so if you join on YouTube and you're watching the repeat, hello to you. So yesterday we looked at what autism is, what neurodiversity is. We're going to look into more detail today in terms of how that can affect neurodiverse people in the the job world, applying for jobs, particularly in the corporate sector, should I say. So I'm going to get into it. Hope everyone's okay. You can comment in the chat if you want to, in the Facebook live group. We're doing this call on Zoom, but we will pick up those comments. Some of my team will be able to answer your queries as well, so feel free to do that. Also pop in the chat where you're from, what company you represent if you want to say that. Just say hello if you want to. Right, so let's get going. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, this will be going on YouTube at some point, so just so it's accessible for everyone, in case anyone's not on Facebook. Next slide. So, key points from day 1 yesterday. So, I'm going to put my glasses on because I can't see. So there we go. So, why are you here? Sorry if you're seeing background things there. I'll try and sort the camera out. So, why are you here? Basically to support neurodiverse employees and those with mental health problems or issues or conditions. So, if you can support your employees properly, that will help with their well-being, general happiness as well. It'll also help with productivity. So if they're happier doing what they're doing, they feel like they're supported and accepted, they're more likely to be more productive. And then as a result of that, your income will be benefited as well, because you've got a happy workforce. They want to work for you, they want to do a good job, they're happy in what they're doing, so it's going to help with your income. So there's a few other sort of bits as well. Just go on to the next bit, please. Obviously there's your neurodiverse employees and those mental health problems, but there's also your customers. So in the corporate sector, obviously a lot of it is about getting customers. You will have neurodiverse customers that you deal with, whether you know it or not, and those with mental health issues. Obviously there's hidden disabilities, hidden conditions, problems people have. Like I say, you might not know about that, so it's about supporting everyone as best we can. So if you can do that, your customers are more likely to buy from you, more likely to deal with you, recommend your company, whatever you are, whatever service or product you offer, and more likely to be loyal to you. And of course that will all have a knock-on effect of improving your income as well. Let's go on to the next bit, please. Okay, so a few other things we looked at from day 1. Looked at how much it costs to hire a new employee. Can you just put the stats on the screen, please? So in the UK, this can cost on average £3,000 to recruit. Training, so if you've got problems with the internet, please put in the chat, let us know. If you're having issues with viewing us at the moment, let us know. So yeah, how much does it cost to hire a new employee? In the UK, like I say, £3,000 to recruit. Training can be over £1,000 and numerous other costs as well. How much does it cost to replace an employee? So yeah, I'm just giving you some of the UK stats here. There'll be different ones in America, Canada, Australia, wherever you are in the world. In the UK, the average cost of employee turnover based on the average salary is around £11,000 per person. So very high numbers. It costs a lot to employ someone. So I'm just going to turn my camera off a bit in case anyone has epilepsy or just struggles with that in itself. It does that from time to time. So yeah, it costs a lot to replace an employee, to hire a new employee. So ideally, if you can keep your employees, if they're good ones and they want to be there, you're better off financially. Now, just in terms of autism, how this fits in, only around 22% of autistic people earn paid work. Again, there may be different figures you'll see on the internet. The point is, it's really low. And from that, there's between 14 to 16% that are in full-time employment. So, really, really low figures, shockingly low figures, and the point is a lot of them do want to work and can. So there's barriers there from not getting employed, whether it's application process, interviews, or in the job itself. Different social struggles, or whatever. We're going to look more into that throughout the session. Next slide, please. So yeah, we're going to be looking at the recruitment process and hiring autistic staff in the corporate industry, the corporate world. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. Next slide, please. So job applications and applying for jobs. Many autistic individuals don't apply for jobs, even if it's a job they actually want. One of the reasons is due to the application forms. There's also covering letters, CVs as well. So there's a raft of different issues related to that. I'm going to look at some of these now. Application forms can be so long-winded, just take ages to fill in. Now, I don't really know anyone that enjoys filling in application forms, that wants to spend half a day, a full day doing that. I suppose there will be some people out there that like doing that, but majority I wouldn't think would. Now, for autistic people, it can be even harder, particularly if the application forms are illogical in terms of questions being asked. I've done them in the past where I spent a whole day filling an application form in and then not even heard back from the employer, which I was like, well, I'm not doing that again. One of the many reasons I decided to work for myself. I can't be doing with that. Next bit, please. So many adverts don't read very well. This can confuse anyone, but particularly autistic people as well. They may dislike the wording if it's sort of incorrect, which could put them off as well. Next bit, please. So phrases like exceptional verbal and written communication skills. Ideally, everyone would have that, but does every single job in the world need that? When you actually think about how it's literally written. Now, if you're doing a phone sales job, you could do with having good verbal skills. If you're doing work on computer, written communication skills. If you're doing a job that involves no sort of written skills really at all, then do you need to have exceptional written skills? Just something to bear in mind, because it can put people off, particularly autistic people. Like I say, they can take things literally. So next bit, please. So fancy wording, or general phrases that are not relevant to the role. They might think they're not qualified to do it. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I suppose exceptional team player. If it's doing a job where they don't have to actually be a team player. I mean, you don't want anyone who says, "Oh, I'm not." You don't really want anyone who says, "I hate people" or whatever. Even if they do, I suppose you don't want that. But at the same time, if it's someone who's working in a job where they're mainly on their own or they're home based, it's all home based. Yeah, you still can be part of a team, but they might actually look at that literally and think, "Well, I'm not very sociable, or I'm not, don't go around talking to everyone, that sort of thing." They could take it literally and think, "Oh, I can't do that," even if it's not relevant to the actual job they're applying for. Next bit, please. So, just on the application side of it, there's complex forms. There's boxes included asking sort of relevant questions I've just touched on, asking information they don't understand. They'll probably just leave it and decide not to bother. So what I would say is ask yourself, do all these quick questions need to be included? Can you give more guidance over what is required? Sorry for the background stuff. I don't want anyone having an epileptic fit, which is a serious thing, like it could really cause issues. What questions can you remove? Can you advise, what is actually required? Can you give a bit of some pointers, tips, or feedback, on the application? Just say, I mean, some will say maximum 200 words, for example, or 250 words, or whatever. So those things can help. They can really help. So that's one thing you can do. I know some companies do that. Do they need their full working history and qualifications included when they could just have that on the CV, if you're asking for the CV as well? So that bit leads into so duplication. Many employers have application forms that ask for information that's on the CV. So is this needed, or what should I say, why is this needed? I mean, for yourself as an employer, do you really want to spend time reading an application form where it says what's the address, 5-year or 20-year working history, whatever, and then it's on the CV as well, like, because you've just got to sift through that twice. Next bit. Hope everyone's still with us, by the way, if we had connection problems earlier. Otherwise I'm talking to myself, which I kind of am anyway, but it's not great. So, not understanding what is required of them. If they're applying for a data analyst role, for example, it's home-based, they're just sending, I don't say just sending, but they're sending reports via email. But again, it says excellent oral communication skills. They may be unsure what to put for that. Again, they might not apply. They might be like, well, I can do this job easily, but I'm not sure if I'm really good at communicating orally, like on the phone. Excellent oral communication skills. Some autistic people struggle on the phone, some struggle in person, so even that in itself, is that across the board? Because a phone skill is different to in person. Then the phrase interpersonal skills, I always have to remind myself what that one means. I always forget, so I usually Google it and then think, that's what it means, and then forget it again the next time and do the same thing over and over. This may confuse them. What does it mean exactly in terms of what the company is wanting? Trying to remember what it means now, interpersonal skills. Put it in the chat, someone. Such an easy thing in one way, but then it's like not in another way. Next slide. So on to cover letters or covering letters. There are job adverts out there that don't state whether they need a cover letter or not. Can you just say we do need one or we don't? Because that can cause confusion, particularly if you've applied just applied for one job and it says you need a cover letter, then the other one doesn't say one way or the other. You're like, oh, I don't know what to do there. Next bit. What are they expected to write? It might sound a bit of a daft thing. There's templates on the internet for covering letters. There's advice and tips. There's blogs. They can research that themselves. But then again, they don't necessarily know what exactly you're looking for as a business. Is there a social element included in this? If there is, they may not understand that. Just in terms of how you greet them, like, do you put yours sincerely at the end? Do you put kind regards? All that sort of stuff. People have different opinions. Do you put I hope you're well at the start of it? Do you put I'm really looking forward to applying for this job? All these sort of things they might struggle with. And each company has their own policy on that. Even if they don't have an actual policy, we're a mental policy as such. So could you tell them what things to include? Next bit. How long should it be, the cover letter? We're not talking sort of, to the exact words, like it needs to be 350 words or whatever. Could just say no more than one page or whatever. Because again, some autistic people might not know what to do with that, so some might just literally put a one-liner. I'd love to apply for the role of data analyst at your company. Yours sincerely, Jake. Another one might put 5 pages saying, oh, I've read into your company, I've seen what you do, I really like what you're doing, I know someone that works there and he said it's a really good place to work. They might put all this stuff that usually is deemed unnecessary, but they might not know that. I wouldn't do that because I'd know not to do that, but then at the same time, I wouldn't be sure whether you do 1 page or 2 pages, to be fair. Generally, I'd do it, when I did it in the past, obviously, I'd do it 1 page maximum. I'd probably do like 3/4 of a page. But again, someone will tell you different and say, oh no, it only needs to be half a page. Or someone will say, well, you can put a bit more if you want to. All these confusing things. Next bit, please. And again, the whole point is for an autistic person, it can be even more confusing than the average person. Not always, but in a lot of cases it is. How much of this goes towards whether they get interviewed or not in terms of covering letter? Do you even read one? If you get sent one, do you actually read it, or do you just look at the CV and say, oh, she's worked at such and such, she's done this, oh, we'll get her in, and not even read the rest of it? I don't know. Next bit. If they include too much, could that stop them getting interviewed? If they put 5 pages, are you going to be like, well, I can't be dealing with this person? Imagine what they'll be like in the interview. They'll spend 3 hours talking. Not necessarily. Again, give them guidance. Next bit, or next slide. Oh no, it isn't. Do you really need an application form? Is cover letter and CV enough, or just a CV enough? A lot of jobs say just send your CV. They're like gold dust when you're applying for jobs back in the day. You're like, oh, just send me a CV. Which I get the negative side of that, because then it can, I don't want to say make people lazy, but they can say, oh, I've done my CV, I'll just send it out to the million companies, even if it's not jobs I'm bothered for, which some people might do. So therefore, are you getting the people you exactly want to apply for your job? So I get that. There's 2 sides to every argument as such, so you've got to be fair with that as well. I know some companies make it long-winded, so they're sort of, what's the word? Not weeding out, but weeding out people who aren't that, I won't say not that bothered, because they might really want the job, they just might really struggle with application forms. In the company's mind, they might think, well, if we make it a really long process, then we'll only get the ones who are really dedicated and that are really good. Which can work in some cases, but you will also miss out on a lot of good employees as well by doing that. Next slide. So on CVs, again, you can do some Google searches. The common ones I used to find were no longer than 2 pages. I might be wrong now, I've not had to do it for a while. I would imagine it's still around that sort of area. But, again, autistic take things literally. Someone could put on there, oh, you could put five pages, or it doesn't matter how many pages you send. So I might be like, oh, right, it doesn't matter then. I'll include everything I've ever done and put it in detail. I'll send 10 pages. Or they might take it the other way and might just say, well, I'll just list where I've worked and it's half a page. And then an employee might look at that and say, it's only half a page. What have they done? It doesn't look a great CV. Will not give them an interview. So you could just state how long on the application, just say, you attach your CV, no longer than 2 pages, for example. Next bit, please. And again, just on that point now, you could say, 2 page, no longer than 2 pages. So then it could be like, well, don't do half a page or 1 page. So there's, it's not easy. There's no sort of, you can't tick off every single box. So I get that. It's just giving people a bit more guidance when applying. Again, could you not just ask for CV, as I've said that a minute ago? Could they just add more into the CV? Just add on bits there as well, rather than having to do an application form, then attach the CV and cover that. Next bit. Could you state exactly what you need to see? For example, 5-year employment history, qualifications, skills, why are you good for this role? We don't need any more than that, or email address, whatever. And this fits in the application form as well. Do you need to fill in all these? I can't even remember now. I don't really fill in long application forms. Well, I don't do it anyway anymore. Anyway, but if I were, I just wouldn't. It's not worth my time, because if I spend all day applying for a job, then don't even hear back from them. It'd really annoy me, so I won't do it, to be fair. And the point is, there'd be a lot of people in the same boat. Even if they do desperately need a job and want a job, a lot won't do it, which is, again, you're missing out. Everyone's missing out in that sense. Next bit. So, waiting to hear if they have an interview or not. So all I'd say on that, to start with, is please appreciate the job seekers may be applying for dozens, hundreds, of jobs, and they don't have the time or energy to spend hours on each application, as I've just said, with no guarantee of even hearing back. So, if you spend 5 hours applying for one job, don't get anything back, 5 hours another, it can get demoralising for them, and that's one of the reasons why you see some people in long-term unemployment, because they just get beat up by the process, and not necessarily, it's not that they can't work or don't want to, it's just the process of it sometimes. I'm not saying that's the only reason, there's a raft of reasons, but that is definitely one of the many reasons. Next one. Please try to respond to everyone. You could be a massive corporate business, thousands of employees, hundreds of job applications that come through every day. I get that, but could you not have a system? If you're a big company in that sense, you've probably got the funding to have automated systems. Could you have a generated email that says, it could be anything, just to generate one, someone applies straight away, you get one back saying, thanks for your application, we'll be in touch within the next 2 weeks. I know some used to say, if you've not heard from us in 2 weeks, then presume you've not got the job. That's okay, I suppose it's okay. Yeah, used to have that in the past, thinking about it. It can still cause a bit of stress for these people, but there's some sort of answer there for them, which is okay. Next bit, please. Could you ask them on the application their preference of contact? Again, most people, I don't care if it's on the phone or email or whatever, why does it matter? Some autistic people really struggle on the phone, they get anxious if a phone call comes in, they don't answer it. Many prefer email, it's not to say all do, some actually like talking on the phone and having that interaction there and speaking to the potential employer. The point is, could you just ask them, when we contact you, if we contact you to have an interview, would you rather be contacted by email or phone? Next bit. They may be anxiously waiting for days or weeks to hear, and if you never get back to them, that can cause a lot of issues. Mental health wise, stress, anxiety, even depression. If it's sort of if it keeps happening to him, they'll think, oh, there's no point in me applying for these jobs because they never get back to me, and it can just be demoralising. They may ask they may contact the company asking for updates. They could get really impatient with it and end up emailing every day if they don't hear back and saying what's happening with it. And then they can come across as aggressive because they're just getting annoyed with it. So yeah, there's a lot of knock-on effects by not getting back to them. Next bit. And again, I know it's not easy to get back to everyone. It is hard, whether it's small or big company, but it's just putting that thought in there, trying to create a process so it's easy for you to actually do that. And if you come on any of my future sessions, that's something we can work on, looking at ways of getting around that and making it accessible for everyone, so that everyone's a winner with that. If they do get an interview, please bear in mind they may have problems with travelling to the venue. They may get lost trying to find it. I've got lost several times. I've got dyspraxia as well, which is a big reason for that. The amount of times I've driven somewhere and just not been able to find the venue and thought I might as well give up, and then just got there in the nick of time, but then you're sort of rushing about, you feel like you're late. If you just bang on time, it's like, oh, I wanted to have some relaxation time before it, where you're just straight into the interview. So yeah, just bear that in mind. The time of the interview could be a problem. If it's, say, 9 o'clock in the morning, they might have issues with rush hour getting there, other people, traffic, etc. I'm not saying, neurotypical, so non-autistic people don't struggle with any of this, because obviously they absolutely can. But it's about making it accessible to everyone, so it includes autistic people and non-autistic people who may have these issues. If they've got anxiety disorders, for example, or dyspraxia, but not autistic, they can struggle with that. So are there any ways you can help? So when you give them instructions for getting to the interview, rather than, can you say, you need to get onto this street, this is a postcode, it's this address, you need to be going through these doors. Once you go through the doors, you'll meet reception, please check in there and say your name and whatever. And I've had that in the past when I used to go for jobs. I have had people say that going back some years, which is good. Next bit, please. So the interview process, so if they manage to navigate the application, actually get it in, then get an interview, they've had a phone call, an email saying, yeah, they've got an interview. They've managed to get through all that. There's the interview itself. So there are many things an autistic person may struggle with during an interview. I've said finding an interview venue, I've touched on that. If you're vague with it and say it's on X Street, and no more into that, then they might be like, oh, well, I've got to the street, but I don't know where the hell to go from there. Particularly if it's in a city centre or something like that, that can be a nightmare. Then once they find the place, like I say, it could be how you get into the building. If there's like 3 different doors to get in, even if it's quite obvious to some people, they might struggle with which one to go in. If they're going to walk up a flight of stairs and walk around the room and stuff, it might just get overwhelming for them if there's too many people around. Or if the opposite, if there's no one around, there's no one to talk to, and they're just walking around the building thinking, well, where do I go here? Next bit. Excuse me. Interview method. So obviously some interviews done in person, some over the phone, some over Zoom. You can't please every single person in the world, and to use a business, you have set procedures and things. You might not be able to interview people on a Zoom, you might not be able to do a phone call. It might be the only methods you can do, you might not be able to meet them in person. So there's lots of different methods and reasons behind it. But if possible, could you ask the interviewee, I should say, which method is best for them? For example, as I said before, some really struggle with phone calls, they just get really anxious about it. If they can't see the person, they can't judge facial expressions, they can't judge mannerisms and stuff, or they might not know when to talk. I've had that on the phone calls in the past, where you don't know when to talk because you can't see whether they're going to talk or not. On the other hand, some may really get anxious for face-to-face, just maybe overwhelming for them. If you can't adjust to their needs, at least ask yourself, is the interview method actually relevant to the role? So if you're doing a phone interview, but the job itself involves no phone calls whatsoever. It's in an office role, doing admin, data entry, that sort of stuff, but there's no phone work involved, but they're doing the interview on the phone and they don't really like being on the phone, then is that not a disadvantage for them actually getting the job that they can probably do? So there's ways around it, just something to bear in mind. Next bit. Unpredictable interview process. So you can't just give them the job. Well, you can do, but it's not advisable. You shouldn't do that with anyone, but there you go. The ways to help them present the best version of themselves. Now, that phrase in itself is not, that'll annoy a lot of autistic people. So what do you mean the best version of myself? I am who I am. So yeah, not take that too literally. All I'm saying is for them to do well at the job, there are ways, well at the job interview to do well at it, do a good interview basically. There's some ways you can help. So if they know what sorts of questions they may face, that can help. If they've got to do a presentation, if they know beforehand, they still might get anxious about it and may even decide not to do the interview potentially. At least if they know about it, it gives them some warning. The topic as well, if you say do a presentation on business trends of 2021 or something, then at least it can help. Whereas if you just say it on the day, I've been to some in the past where they've said, right, we're doing a presentation, you've got 30 minutes to prepare for it, you've got this whiteboard, you're just going to write things down. It's like, spend 5 minutes messing about with the whiteboard because I'm dyspraxic, trying to get it set up right. Then I'm spending time looking at pens, deciding which pen to have. I'm like, bloody hell, that's not relevant. So you've lost like 10 minutes, then you're overthinking, you're getting anxious about it, thinking I've only got 30 minutes, it's now 20 minutes. And then if you can write what I'm even meant to be doing here, so you have to keep reading over the question over and over, and then you just scribble something down last minute and eventually just get something done. But it's not good. It's not good for stress levels. Purposely putting people in a stressful situation, whilst it can be good in some situations, I believe that if you've got no anxiety, no stress throughout your life, I don't think that's good because you need that to perform sometimes. But at the same time, that can be too much. They can have a meltdown. It can really affect the mental health and stress levels really badly. Next bit, please. So, some of this will be like second nature to a lot of you. It'd be like, well, that's just normal. Like, I don't ever think about it. A lot of autistic people have to think about this thing because it doesn't come naturally to them, so they have to think about this. So, shaking hands. You walk in the room, if it's face to face, and initial impressions. So I felt I always did okay with the handshake thing. I didn't do it limp, but I didn't do it too hard so you break the hand. So probably won't go down well, like the break hand, and it's like, we're not offering you a job. You just injured our manager. He's out of work for a week. So yeah, don't want that. But even me talking about it now, it's like I have to think about all those things. So I got used to it. First time I did it or whatever, it's like, right, I need to do that. But a lot of autistic people won't know these things. No one will have told them, or they won't have looked into it or thought about it. Some will just walk in, say hello, and go and walk down. Go and sit down. And they'll think, manager might be stood there thinking, oh, they're a bit ignorant, I'll go and sit down then. They might not know. So again, that fits in with the initial impression. Straight away, they might think in their head they're not getting the job. All they've done is just not shake the hand because they didn't know they're meant to do it or not, and then they've not got the job. So you're just wasting an hour of everyone's life, basically, following that. So yeah, it's such a little thing, but it is a big thing in other ways. They may also act inappropriate in thingies, inverted commas, inappropriate without actually knowing. Next bit. Eye contact. A lot of autistic people really struggle with it. They don't sort of understand it or get it, the reasoning behind it. They may not look at you at all, so then they may be deemed ignorant or rude. They may look at you intensely, because autism can be extremes. So you might think, oh, they're a bit creepy, like they're putting me off now. The messy has become the messer, basically. But yeah, there's that, and then there's some which may look at you occasionally but look down for a lot of the time. or some might just keep looking up and down because they don't know how much eye contact they're meant to give. So you might be thinking, what are they doing there? Why do they keep looking up and down all the time? A lot of autistic people struggle. Yeah. So again, this, and then some sort of overanalyze it. I'm not one of them. Some people overanalyze it and think, am I giving the right amount of eye contact every second? Oh, it's like a clock in your brain. It's like, 10 seconds have gone past here, best look up. But all of that just distracts you anyway, because you can't then focus on the interview because you're worrying about that. And again, if you've never experienced any of this, it's like, what the hell is he on about? And I get that. So it's not easy, but having a bit of understanding about it can help. Can help them as well. Next bit. Social interaction. They may not possess adequate social skills, but may be able to do the job. So they could be the best employee in the whole company, but they don't like talking about latest news or cricket team or whatever it is. They don't like going stand by the coffee dispenser and talking about stuff. But they're really good at the job. But then people might be like, oh, we don't like him. He don't really get involved much or whatever. So let's get rid of him. So yeah, there's all that sort of stuff to think about. Next bit, please. Being asked questions on the spot. This can cause anxiety. The minds may go blank. Of course, this can happen to anyone. Of course, I'm not saying this is exclusive to autism because it's not, but just something they struggle more with in general. Obviously, some autistic people aren't bothered at all. So yeah, it's that extreme element of it again. Next bit. So irrelevant interview questions. What animal would you be if you could be an animal? A lion. Why? I'm strong. And all that sort of stuff. Strong, determined and stuff. Wrong answer. Why? Why is it wrong answer? What we're looking for a sheep, or a little mouse. So great. But yeah, it's just pointless questions. It might break the interview up and make it more light-hearted. But if you want to make it light-hearted, just tell a few jokes. If so, I'm going to tell some jokes now. But then again, they might not understand the jokes. Some do, some don't. Some autistic people are very good with humour. Some are the opposite. So just stick to interview. Basically, be easiest. Just the actual job questions themselves. If you could be a biscuit, what biscuit would you be? Why? Why are you asking that? Yeah, think about it now. If someone asked me that one, I could have just stared at them for like 5 minutes and wait till they move on, and then I'd just not get the job anyway. To be fair. Next point. I hope you get that point now. I'm being a bit sarcastic, but to me, it's like I don't see the point in those sort of questions, but I know companies do it. I've had those questions asked to me before. I've had the animal one. I rehearsed the lion answer because I do like lions. It's my favourite animal, so I just thought I'd be one of those. Quite good. Knowing what is expected of them, they may not pick up on social cues or interview skills. Next bit. Misinterpretation of questions, like say the animal one, they might be like, what are you on about? They may need some questions explained in more detail. It could be any sort of question. They might just need a bit more clarification, so if you could help with that and prompt them maybe. Again, you don't want to do the interview for them, you can't answer the questions for them, so it's not saying that, it's just giving them support so they can understand. If they know what they're being asked, it just makes it easier. Then they can either fail or succeed with the question themselves. That's it. They may understand things a different way. Again, take things literally. I'm trying to think of one. If it's sort of a question like, I don't know. I don't know if it's a question like, do you think you'll enjoy working for us? And then what you're looking for is them to say, yeah, I will really enjoy it because I'd like to get involved with this, I'd like to do this. Whereas they might just say, yeah, So, I've interviewed people in the past, and they've just given me one word answers, and I thought, right, okay, can I word that a different way myself? Have I not asked that right? So I'll prompt them and try and get more out of them. So all I say with that is, in that instance, if they just said yeah, then don't just mark it down and think, oh, they're not very good. Just try and say, why do you think you'd enjoy it? Can you give any examples? Can you give a couple of examples? Next bit. Sun's out there, it's pretty cool. Group interviews. I've done a few of these in the past. Hated them. Felt like an animal in the zoo being watched. So there's anxiety involved with that, every second of it. Social skills are being tested. It's one of those, like, you do a group interview, you have 6 people on the table, they've got to do a challenge, they've got to go on a desert island, and they've got to have there's 10 items they can choose from. They've got to pick 3 that they keep as a team. Nothing relevant to the job whatsoever. Obviously, I get the reasoning behind it in some senses. It's like testing teamwork, see if you can problem solve, stuff like that. But an autistic person may think, well, this is relevant to my job. I'm going for I don't know, pensions advisor. Yeah, there's problem solving and everything. But yeah, I don't know how it's going to help me in my job as such. So yeah, feeling like they're being watched. It's one of those. It's like we're not watching you. We just you get on with it, and then you look up, and then they're stood there watching you. You're like, oh, well, pretending not watching stuff. Because I know you're watching me. I know you are. So then if you're not talking much at all, you're thinking, oh, I need to say something here, even if it's random. I'll just say something just so I'm talking. If you're talking too much, it's like, am I taking over? Am I looking like I'm too bossy and I'm not a team player? If I'm not saying anything at all, then I'm not a team player as well. So it's like getting that right balance of talking. You'll always get some people who want to talk a lot, and it's like, I can't get a word in here, so that'll annoy you. So there's all these different elements. It's just not good for an autistic person in general. Some may love it. They might think, oh, I love doing this, and treat it as a game, and sort of. But even then, that's not the point, is it? You're not meant to treat it as a game. You're meant to treat it as a job you're actually going for. Next bit, please. So, how much detail to give? I've already touched on this one. They may just say yeah and not know how much detail to add. Next bit. Unwritten social rules. They may not know these and struggle because of it. They might not know to take the turn. They might be the complete opposite, where they're too worried about jumping in to conversations that they don't get into any, or they want to get in but they don't know how to get into the conversation. Next bit. They may ask what's deemed as an inappropriate question, like when are the breaks. Like I can remember when I first started out in going for jobs and stuff, a lot of people said, oh, don't ask when your breaks are, don't ask how much the pay is. I'm like, I can remember them thinking, why wouldn't I ask that? I want to know when my breaks are. I want to know how much I'm getting paid. Like, why wouldn't I? It's all, you're not meant to do that. You've got to show an interest in the role, say how good you are at the job, say how much you love the company and stuff, which is great, but you should know these things, because there's no point saying, yeah, you'll agree to take on a job and find out you only get 1 break a day. I know some jobs don't get any breaks, which is criminal, but yeah, so you're like, well, I'm not doing that job. So it's just a waste of everyone's time, basically. It's just a basic question, like, you should know when your breaks are. The employer should tell you this. You should tell your candidates this information, because it is relevant to whether they want the job or not. Yes, they'll want to work. They may really enjoy the job, but they also want to know the other stuff around it, which is important. If they don't know the salary, it's like, well, do I get paid at all? It could be voluntary for all they know. Yeah, I don't think I should explain that much more, but I do know, I've seen it in the past where these things don't get mentioned, and I've always found it strange. Next bit. And I'm not saying that you should just let them just say, oh, when's my breaks, how much to get paid, right, that's brilliant, that's it, end of interview. Obviously you've got to do all the other stuff as well. Just like we said earlier about letting them know if they've got an interview, please let them know if they've got the job or not. Obviously, if they've got the job, you will let them know, I'd have thought. If they've not got the job, even if it's a generated email again, automatic one, please let them know. If you tell them when they're going to know about it, it will help as well, or we'll let you know within the next 2 weeks or whatever. Next slide. So onboarding, get them into the team. So make sure they get the correct training, adequate training, they're not just thrown into the job. Next bit. Give them time to learn. They may be slower to start with, may take them longer to get used to people and people around them, the environment, etc. But they may fly past others after that, so they may then be the A-star pupil. Next bit. Tell them what the job entails and any other relevant information. Next bit. Which doesn't always happen in companies, or they'll be vague about it and give you a bit of information but not too much. It's like, well, I could do with knowing really if I'm going to be dedicating my time to this role. They may be anxious about starting. A lot of people will, whether you're autistic or not. Try to help them through this process, reassure them, it's not a big, bad, scary room you're going to be walking into, everyone's pleasant, although if they're not pleasant, well, they should be, so I don't know. If they're not pleasant, just say, yeah, they're all miserable buggers, but you just have to ignore them. I don't know. Next bit. It may take them time to show the talents, so tagging on from the top point. Next one. So managing the employee, so they've done the training, they're in the job. If they've done well enough to get past all that, and you have as an employee, as an employer, making it accessible for them, there still may be some hurdles to overcome whilst actually in employment. So let's look at some of these now. Providing clear instructions, so tell them what you want them to do. Don't be vague about it. Give them accurate and honest feedback. But consider other people listening if so. So if you're telling them, look, you're not doing too well at the moment, you need to do this or that in a constructive way. If there's people around them, they may get embarrassed or anxious or think, oh, everyone's going to laugh at me, that sort of thing. And that's the same for whether you're autistic or not, in a lot of cases. So just bear that in mind. Just take them to one side and say, look, I'm wanting a bit more from you, I'm wanting this, I'm wanting that, ideally. Next bit. A proper training program. So again, throw them straight into a role. Just throw them in a deep end, which some jobs do. Is not ideal. Next bit. Social rules. Explain these to them and why use them. So it might you might be like, why have I got to explain that? If you're autistic, you may not naturally get the whole social etiquette. You would be going above and beyond as an employer, but if you want to be top-notch employee in that sense, you could, if they're struggling with it, if they don't get the eye contact thing, can explain, oh, this is why we do that. Why do we talk about the weather every morning? Oh, it's just a way of saying hello, which is what people do because of whatever reason you do it for. Things like that. You could provide a little bit of mentoring for them. Full enough, that's something I could offer to you as well. One of the things I offer, I didn't mean to go into sales bit there, it just happened. One of the things we offer is working with neurodiverse employees, so we could explain these social things to them. Why do we have all these team bonding sessions? Why it's not relevant to the job? We can explain why that is. Same with managers. We can help on the other end explain why an autistic employee may struggle with X, Y, or Z. Why do they always have the hands over the head when the fire fire alarm goes off, for example, it's because the sensory, noises can be really intense for them, so it might just be too much for them to deal with. Next bit, adapting communication. Can you change how you operate to fit their needs? I'm not saying you have to change your whole company policy, you have to change who you are as a company, I get that. But in general, the world, including employers, everyone needs to be more accepting of neurodiverse, not more accepting, need to be accepting of neurodivergence. It will happen one day. It could be I think it could be like 20, 30, 40, 50 years before we get where we want to be, but it will happen eventually. So yeah, you can be ahead of the game in that, which will then show you as a good employer and people want to work for you, and therefore your profits will benefit as a result of that. So it's worth looking at. I'm not saying change everything about your business, but looking at your application process. Is it too long-winded? Are there things we can do? Next bit, please. And again, I'm not saying every employer is bad at this. I'm just saying I've seen it firsthand when I've applied for jobs and been working for companies in the past. So I know it exists because I've seen it firsthand, and I've heard many other people say the same. So it does happen. Whether you're one of those or not, obviously I don't know. You may be screaming in the chat now saying I am. We're really inclusive, which is great if you are, because there are some that are. So anxiety, this may affect their work. Try to consider what will make them less anxious. Best thing would be to talk to them and ask them for that. Next bit. Routine and structure. If you change plans all the time, I know some things can't be helped. Things do change, the world evolves, things do change naturally. The internet happens, so then a lot of stuff changed from that. That could cause issues for some people. But changing plans all the time, sort of on a whim or without any organisation or strategy, doesn't help. Can you let them create their own routines that work for them, as long as it's not detrimental to themselves, you as a company, or other colleagues? Does it matter if they have their own routines and plans, etc.? Do they have to follow a set policy on that? Again, if you do, you do. That's fine. If you don't, why not let them do their own? Next bit. Letting them know about team meetings or team building and bonding days. If you drop it on last minute, there's every chance they'll say I'm not going, or they'll be really anxious and say I can't do that, or they'll be ill. I'm not saying intentionally ill, but it could just get that stressful that they just can't cope with it. Do they need to go if it's if it's team meeting? Yeah, I get that, but there are some like sales meetings you may go to where they're just pointless because it's not relevant to your team, but you've just been invited as a wider business. That could happen, does happen. Team building days, if it's a day out, wherever it is, paintballing or something, they may not enjoy that at all. They might get really scared or anxious about it. Do they have to be involved as much as everyone else? I know there's knock-on effect there, where other colleagues can say, well, if he's not doing it, then I don't have to do it. So there's a line there. It's just about being honest. If they really struggle, then why do they have to be forced to do something against their will? And I get the whole team building day is meant to be an enjoyable thing, which it absolutely can be, but sometimes it isn't for an autistic person. Depends on what you're doing and the environment, etc. Next slide. Processing information. Can you give them extra time? Ask what will help them. Next bit. Flexibility. So, do you have to start work at the same time? Is it flexible? And even if it's half an hour to suit them, is that something you can do? If you can't, if you're constrained under just your business or your customers, wherever it is, that's fine. But usually there is some flexibility there, which people just aren't allowed. Breaks, do they have to go at a time where it's really busy? Can they go for a break when it's less busy? For example, toilet breaks, some companies have set breaks. Some say go to the toilet when you need it, which I would say is best policy, unless I want to say swear word then, which would be quite appropriate for the toilet thing. But unless they're taking the mick, general autistic people won't take the mick with that. They need time alone. It's a big thing. They need time alone just to get away from all the madness or the people around them. Their own thoughts can be problems as well. So can adaptations be made? Next bit. Progression opportunities. A lot of autistic people will not apply for promotions because they don't know about it, or they'll not think it's relevant to them. They'll not think they stand a chance, even if they're the best performing person in the team. Are they getting a fair chance? Whereas a lot of neurotypicals tend to be able to spot these opportunities and go for them. Some autistic people are fine and they're the opposite, and they jump all over it, and they're quite clued up about it. So yeah, it's extremes again. So yeah, I do know some won't be getting a fair chance though. Next bit. So looking at strengths, as opposed to picking out the weaknesses, can you focus on the strengths? It's known within the autism industry as strengths-based approach. A lot of businesses now use this. Some people are training out, coaching out people. Yeah, if you can be good at everything, that's great. But a lot of autistic people have certain skill set, and they can struggle with other things. So if they can sell in some areas where others can't, then if that's good for your business, why not let them do it? Next bit. Sensory factors and their environment. So lights, noises, sound, smells, whatever. Ask them what bothers them. Can they move the workspace? If you're in a busy office, an open plan, and they're right in the middle, and everyone's walking past them, there's lights shining on them, there's noises, there's phones binging all the time, there's people talking, socialising, all this stuff. People walking past every 2 seconds, they get distracted. And just saying, well, don't get distracted doesn't really help, because they naturally do. Can they move the desk? Can they sit in a corner, for example, where not got as much noise around them or people walking around? And then again, it's all going back to the key points. If they're understood and accepted, then they're going to be happier what they're doing, more productive, and better for your income. Noises. Just think about it. There's some noise you can't necessarily stop the phone ringing or fax machine going off or printer making noise. So you can't do much about that sort of stuff. But the ways around it, like I say, moving the desk is one to a place where they're more comfortable. Next slide. Becoming overwhelmed or overloaded. Find out what is causing it. As they ask them, can you adapt for them as well? Next bit. Other colleagues. So a lot of people don't know about autism. No, they know about it, but they don't know what it is, how it affects people in good ways and bad ways. So as a result of that, they may get sort of teased for it, bullied, taken the mick out of, or the opposite, where they're sort of being classed as rude or ignorant, or that, oh, she's not very nice or whatever. As well, if they're really good at one thing better than others, people might get jealous of that, might try and bring them down, sort of thing. Yeah, lots going on there. Next slide. Well, that's it. Oh, just done it in about an hour. Perfect. So, not that it matters really, but there you go. Yeah, thanks for attending day 2. So yeah, we're here again tomorrow. What time are we here? Let me just double check. So same time tomorrow. So 2 o'clock tomorrow, Wednesday. So you can see it on YouTube as well. So the sessions will also be in the Facebook Live group. So if you're joining now, you're watching this in a couple of days' time, whatever, don't worry. They're in the group, so you can catch up, so don't worry about that. Hope you've all enjoyed it. You found some useful information there. Let us know what you think. Give us feedback. Send us a message. We really appreciate that as well. Hope you found it enjoyable. Apart from that, we'll sign off, and we will see you for day 3 tomorrow at 2 o'clock.